Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Today we are back on the Battle for Azeroth beta and we are taking a look at the Subtlety Rogue. So Subtlety has received a few changes, but overall there aren't that many differences between live and beta for Subtlety, so let's dive right into the spellbook. Starting with the passives, you've got Deepening Shadows. Your finishing moves reduce the remaining cooldown on Shadow Dance by 1.5 seconds per combo point spent. Fleet-footed is just our movement speed increase. Mastery is the same as on live, increased damage to your finishing moves. Relentless Strikes just gives you energy back when you spend combo points. Shadowy techniques, your auto attacks have a chance to generate a combo point and restore 8 energy. Shadow's Grasp, Backstab, and Shadow Strike reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. So this is a new addition. You have a snare baked into your normal filler generator attacks. So that could be a good change in a lot of scenarios. And then Shuriken combo, Shuriken Storm increases the damage of your next Eviscerate by 5% for each enemy hit beyond the first, stacks up to 5 times. So in AoE situations, this is going to be a really helpful passive to have. Now, the actual rotation of the Sub-Rogue is fairly straightforward. You've got 2 finishers, Nightblade, which you will want to keep up 100% of the time, deals damage over time, and also increases all other damage that you do to the target that's afflicted by Nightblade for 15%. Eviscerate just deals a lot of direct damage. And then to build combo points, when you are not stealthed and you do not have Shadow Dance up, you will use Backstab. When you are stealthed or Shadow Dance is up, you use Shadow Strike, which deals more damage than Backstab and gives 2 combo points. And if you use it when stealthed, it has sort of a Shadow Step mechanic. So I can demonstrate that on this target dummy here, which is not in my line of sight. There we go. So if you use it from not too far away, it's got a 25-yard range, but it will teleport you behind the target. And again, you get 2 combo points, and that'll help you get right into your rotation. So we've got those generators, those spinners. Let's look at the other abilities. Blind is still here. It is on a long cooldown now. It's a 2-minute cooldown. Cheap Shot is a stun that you can use from stealth for 4 seconds and gives you 2 combo points. Cloak of Shadows is the rogue immunity for magical damage. Crimson Vial is the heal, 30% of your max health over 6 seconds. Distract is distract, same as it's always been. Evasion, 100% dodge for 10 seconds. Eviscerate, we already talked about. Feint is, like we mentioned in the assassination video, nerfed from live, but it is still an incredibly strong short defensive cooldown. Gives you 40% reduction from AoE effects, and it's on a 15-second cooldown. On live, it has no cooldown, so you can have 100% uptime on this for fights where that is helpful and necessary, and that makes rogues incredibly powerful in those kind of encounters compared to other melee. So a 15-second cooldown is completely reasonable. It does have an energy cost associated with it, so you're sacrificing basically 1 backstab. So you're trading 744 damage before armor for 40% reduced damage for survival, basically. Kick is our interrupt. Kidney Shot is a long stun that takes combo points. If you have the talent Deeper Stratagem, Kidney Shot will last up to 7 seconds. Nightblade, we already talked about, it's a damage over time. Important to keep it up 100% of the time. Picklock and Pickpocket, these are flavor abilities that also have some financial use for the rogues. Sap is our Incapacitate, completely spammable but requires stealth, and the target cannot be in combat. Shadow Blades is the long cooldown for Subtlety, and what it does is causes your combo point generating abilities to deal 1 additional combo point, and then deal 50% additional damage as shadow damage for 20 seconds. Shadow Dance is the basic short cooldown for Subtlety. It allows you access to your stealth abilities for 5 seconds while you're in combat. It does not actually activate stealth, but it does give you that access to Shadow Strike instead of Backstab, and it will also increase your damage dealt by 12%. So this is a really important cooldown to keep track of. It's a really important ability to master using, because you will generate more combo points and deal more damage while you are in that Shadow Dance window, and it comes back really, really quickly. It's a 1 minute recharge, and baseline Deepening Shadows, every time you spend a combo point, the cooldown of Shadow Dance is reduced by 1.5 seconds. Now you're normally going to be spending 5 or 6 combo points at a time as Subtlety, and fairly frequently. So Shadow Dance actually comes up much, much more quickly than every 1 minute, every 60 seconds. Shadow Step is the Subtlety and Assassination mobility tool, which you use and appear directly behind the target. Subtlety does get 2 charges of it baseline, so that's really nice to have. Shadow Strike is your ambush type opener. You can only use it while stealthed or while Shadow Dance is active. One thing to note about that blink ability that it has that I showed a minute ago is that does not occur when you're in Shadow Dance. That's only when you are actually stealthed. Shroud of Concealment is our AoE stealth ability. Shuriken Storm is our AoE attack filler ability. One nice thing about Shuriken Storm when comparing it to Fan of Knives is that Shuriken Storm always generates a combo point every time it hits a target. Fan of Knives for Assassination has to crit in order to generate a combo point. So Shuriken Storm is much nicer, and if you're in a situation where you have 5+ targets, you're going to get a full combo point bar every time you hit this button. Shuriken Toss is Subtlety's ranged damage ability. It does give you a combo point, so you can fill up your combo points when you're out of range of the boss if there's an intermission phase, or if you need to run out and soak a mechanic, or if you just need to run the big scary fire bomb out of the raid. Sprint gives you movement speed for a short duration, short cooldown, and for Subtlety, I'm not sure if this is for all rogues or just for Subtlety, but it does allow you to run over water, so we can even demonstrate that real quick. Whee! And we'll go right back up before it drops off. And then Stealth, everyone should know what Stealth is. Basic mechanic for rogues. Symbols of Death is exactly like it is on live. It gives you energy and increases your damage done by 15% for 10 seconds. It's a 30-second cooldown. Tricks of the Trade is your threat dump. This is going to be really important to be aware of and to use intelligently in BFA with the threat changes that have been made to tanks. Rogues can make use of this in Assassination or Subtlety by using a focus macro where you will have it cast on your focus target and set your tank as your focus target, and then use it before a pull and open with some burst AoE, and that should help the tank maintain threat maybe every pull, depending on the gear level of the group and the content that you're pushing, but at least every other pull threat should be a non-issue if you do that correctly. And then Vanish puts you into stealth, whether you're in combat or not. Does have a 2-minute cooldown. This is a survivability cooldown, but it is also for Subtlety and Assassination an important DPS cooldown as well, because you'll get to essentially reopen on the target, and your openers are the abilities that do the most damage in your entire toolkit. So that's the spellbook for rogues. Let's go ahead and take a look at the talent tree for Subtlety. So in tier 15, we've got Weapon Master, which is Shadow Strike and Backstab, have a 15% chance to hit the target twice. Find Weakness, your Shadow Strike and Cheap Shot reveal a flaw in your target's defenses, causing your attacks to bypass 40% of that enemy's armor for 10 seconds. And then Gloom Blade, which replaces Backstab with a Shadow Stab ability. Comparing the two, Gloom Blade does more damage baseline and is shadow damage, so it will not be affected by armor. But Backstab does have that 20% damage increase when you're behind your target. So depending on how much armor your target has, or whether or not you can reliably be behind your target, Gloomblade will be better or worse for that scenario. It should always do more damage than Backstab because of armor, but in fights, think like Garrothi Worldbreaker, where you can never be behind your target, Gloomblade is going to, depending on balance of course, going to particularly shine in those scenarios because backstab doesn't have a chance to get that 20% damage increase. In the tier 30 row, we have our stealth row. So Night Stalker gives you more damage and movement speed when you're in stealth. Subterfuge allows you to use your stealth abilities for 3 seconds after stealth breaks and increases the duration of Shadow Dance by 1 second. Shadow Focus abilities cost 25% less energy while Stealth or Shadow Dance is active. So this row is just going to depend on tuning and sims to see which one comes out ahead. Personally, I've always really liked Night Stalker just as a baseline talent to use, whether it's for open world content or just running around, because that movement speed while you're stealthed is really nifty. Tier 45, pretty much the same for these 3 talents. Vigor gives you more energy and energy regeneration. Deeper Stratagem gives you a 6th combo point and increases your finishing move damage. And then Mark for Death gives you 5 combo points. And one cool thing about this is the cooldown is now 30 seconds. On live, it's 1 minute. And it still resets if the target dies within 1 minute. So that part of the ability stays there. So if you're in a scenario where you're fighting lots of mobs that are dying really fast, let's say you're doing some world quests or open world content, or if you are doing some random battlegrounds, Mark for Death can be a really strong choice because it allows you 5 combo points to open with, and then it'll be resetting constantly. Tier 60 is a survivability tier, so Soothing Darkness gives you a heal while Stealth or Shadow Dance is active. Cheat Death keeps you alive and should probably always be the choice in raids, at least on progression, because I can't tell you how many times this has saved me in my raids. If you take fatal damage, you're instead bumped up to 7% of your health, and then you take 85% reduced damage. This buys your healers time to get you out of that really low danger zone, and it'll prevent mechanics that would kill you from killing you. This is really nice to have. Elusiveness. Feint also reduces all damage you take from non-AoE abilities by 30% for 5 seconds. Now this is the exact same talent that it is on live, but it is less effective. It is nerfed because of the change to Feint, where it has a 15-second cooldown. So on live, you could keep 100% uptime on elusiveness in fights where that was necessary. You can't do that anymore because you obviously can't have 100% uptime on Feint. Tier 75, Shot in the Dark. After entering Stealth or Shadow Dance, your next cheap shot is free. Night Terrors. Shuriken Storm reduces enemies' movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. And Prey on the Weak. Enemies that you stun with Cheap Shot or Kidney Shot take 10% increased damage from all sources for 6 seconds. So here you've got amplified crowd control. You can either have free cheap shots, you can have an AoE slow, or you can apply more pressure to your target by stunning them, and then they'll take increased damage while that stun is active. Tier 90, we've got Dark Shadows. While Shadow Dance is active, all damage you deal is increased by 25%. Now baseline, we already get 12% damage increased. So this makes Shadow Dance an even stronger cooldown, and because of how often it's up, this is a really strong ability. Alacrity is slightly easier to keep up on live, but slightly weaker. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point spent to grant 3% haste for 20 seconds. So basically every time you use a finisher at full combo points, you get 3% haste. That stacks 5 times, so there's a little bit of a ramp up time, less than on live where it's 10 stacks of 2%, but it's also a little bit less haste in the end. So you can have 15% haste after about the first, 10 to 20 seconds of the fight, depending on how long it takes you to build up full stacks. And then with the 20-second duration, you should be able to maintain that for the entirety of fights, unless there's some sort of long intermission phase. And then Enveloping Shadows. Deepening Shadows reduces the remaining cooldown of Shadow Dance by an additional 1 second per combo point spent. So if you remember the passive, that gives us now 2.5 seconds per combo point reduction on Shadow Dance. And Enveloping Shadows also gives Shadow Dance 1 additional charge. So this will give you much more frequent access to Shadow Dance, and it'll allow you to sit on 2 charges while the third recharges instead of sitting on 1 while the second recharges. So if you need more frequent burst windows in a fight, this would be a really, really good option to take. If you need stronger burst windows, Dark Shadow is going to be the option. And if you just want more sustained DPS, Alacrity should be your go-to here. Now, this is all, of course, going to depend on tuning. We may have a scenario where one of these is stronger in all scenarios, and then you just take that. Tier 100, Master of Shadows gives you energy when you activate Shadow Dance or enter Stealth. Shuriken Tornado gives you a big AoE burst ability. You get 4 Shuriken Storms over 4 seconds for 60 energy. It is a 1-minute cooldown. The nice thing about that is you can continue to use your other abilities while those Shuriken Storms are going out. And then Secret Technique is replacing Death from Above. It's a finishing move that creates 3 shadow clones of yourself, and they each perform a piercing line on all enemies. A piercing attack on all enemies in a line, dealing physical damage to the primary target and reduced damage to other targets. So this is supposed to be like an AoE finisher. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work right now. You can show it on the dummies here. We'll go ahead and stealth and line up these dummies, and then nothing happens. That yellow is going out is from my trinket, I believe. Try it again. Well, it does have a cooldown, so we'll have to wait a little bit to try it again. Let's get the actual rotation going here. We'll use Shadow Dance. And get another Eviscerate in there. And here we'll try it again, and nothing. So I did submit a bug report for that. It just looks to be completely broken on beta right now, but that should be the AoE finisher that's sort of replacing Death from Above. Gives you a little more complexity to work in the rotation and a little more damage in AoE scenarios. So that's our overview of the Sub Rogue. I think it's looking pretty fun to play. I prefer Assassination, but Subtlety is not at all a bad spec or a boring spec. It does have all these nice little intricacies that you can weave in with Shadow Dance and with entering into stealth and combat and generating combo points, but also waiting for combo points to come in passively with your passive abilities. It's a cool spec, and it's one that I would not at all be bothered if it ended up being significantly stronger than Assassination. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be continuing this series looking at the different specs, starting with at least the DPS specs on the classes that I am looking to choose between for Battle for Azeroth. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks, and I'll see you in that next video. Bye-bye.